fun, and doing SNL, you have to do it so you don't have time to think. So you're forced to say, look, I'll just enjoy it, go with it, and even if I make a mistake, it's...
Behind every great artist stands a few people who believe in them completely. For Robert De Niro, that person was Martin Scorsese. Their partnership became one of the most powerful duos in cinema history. They weren't just director and actor, they were like brothers who understood each other's silences. Their first few meetings were awkward. Scorsese later said that De Niro barely spoke, but when he did, every word mattered. They shared a deep understanding of New York's underworld, the streets, the rhythm, the danger, the poetry hidden in broken lives. Together, they turned those streets into film masterpieces. Movies like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas weren't just entertainment. They were emotional X-rays of America's soul, raw, violent, yet painfully human. Scorsese once said, De Niro doesn't just act. He listens. He feels the space around him. That chemistry between the two created magic that no other pair has matched. Even decades later, when they reunited for The Irishman, the bond was still alive. Both men were older, calmer, wiser. They looked back not just on their movies, but on their friendship, a creative partnership that defined generations. Their relationship proves that true art doesn't come from fame or money, but from trust and loyalty. But De Niro's loyalty wasn't limited to Scorsese. He formed strong friendships with actors like Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel, and Al Pacino, men who shared his same artistic hunger. Together, they shaped the crime drama genre into something poetic and unforgettable. Robert De Niro is known for going to extremes for his roles. To him, every detail matters, the walk, the accent, the smallest gesture. For Raging Bull, he didn't just pretend to be Jake LaMotta, he became him. He fought real matches, broke his ribs, and lived like a boxer. Later, he gained 60 pounds to portray LaMotta's downfall, shocking even Hollywood. This obsession with truth made him legendary, but it also came with a cost. De Niro once said, "You give a piece of yourself to every role. After a while, you start wondering what's left." That inner conflict, between art and identity, became part of his life. He often disappeared between films, taking breaks to find himself again. Even his co-stars noticed his dedication. Jodie Foster, who acted with him in Taxi Driver, said she had never seen someone so focused it was almost frightening. But that's what made De Niro who he is. He never took the easy way out. If a scene didn't feel honest, he would redo it until it did. However, as time passed, this pursuit of perfection started to weigh on him. He began to see how many of his roles revolved around pain and violence. He once reflected, "Maybe I was drawn to that darkness because it felt real." But after a while, you start craving light. That search for light, for peace, became the next chapter of his life. As Hollywood changed, so did Robert De Niro's role in it. He was no longer just the star of the film, he became its heart and mentor. Younger actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, Bradley Cooper, and even Margot Robbie have said how much De Niro's presence influenced them. When DiCaprio worked with him in This Boy's Life, he was only 19. He later said that De Niro treated him like an equal, not a kid. That confidence changed his career forever. Years later, when DiCaprio starred in Killers of the Flower Moon alongside De Niro, it felt like a full circle, the student returning to his master. De Niro doesn't teach by lectures. He teaches by example, through silence, patience, and the way he respects his craft. On set, he's calm but commanding. He doesn't shout or show off. He just listens, watches, and steps in when it matters most. His quiet mentorship has built a generation of serious actors who believe that film is not about fame but about truth. And perhaps that's his greatest legacy, not just the characters he created, but the artists he inspired to carry on his values. 12. The man behind the silence. Though De Niro rarely talks about his personal life, his journey outside of film is filled with challenges, heartbreaks, and triumphs. He's been married twice, first to Diane Abbott, with whom he had 2 children, and later to Grace Hightower, with whom he had 2 more. But fame didn't make family life easy. His dedication to acting often meant long months away from home, and his deep emotional involvement in his roles sometimes made him distant. Still, he remained a loving father. He once said, "My biggest role is being a dad. Everything else is just work." De Niro's relationship with his late father was especially meaningful. His father's art, honest, expressive, and personal, taught him the importance of sincerity. When his father passed away, De Niro made a documentary called Remembering the Artist, Robert De Niro Sr., to honor him. It was one of the few times the actor showed his emotions openly. Through that film, people saw not the tough gangster, but a son missing his dad. As he aged, De Niro also faced health issues and public struggles, including a few controversies and lawsuits. Yet through it all, he remained calm and grounded, never losing his dignity. His quiet strength off-screen reflects the same discipline that made him powerful on-screen. In the 1990s and 2000s, Hollywood changed dramatically. Younger stars, special effects, and superhero movies took over. The era of slow, character-driven dramas seemed to fade. Many thought actors like De Niro would step back, but he didn't. Instead, he adapted. He surprised everyone by showing his comedic side in Meet the Parents and Analyze This. Fans who only knew him as a serious gangster were amazed to see him make them laugh. His timing, subtle expressions, and ability to make fun of his own image proved that true talent has no limits. He continued exploring diverse roles, from Silver Linings Playbook to Joker. Each time, he brought quiet intensity, even in small parts. It showed that for De Niro, no role was ever too small. What mattered was truth. This adaptability is part of why he remains relevant even after 5 decades. While others fade into memory, De Niro evolves, reminding everyone that acting isn't about age, it's about authenticity. As De Niro grew older, his focus moved beyond movies. He became deeply involved in humanitarian work and social causes. He co-founded the Tribeca Film Festival in 2002 to help New York recover after the September 11th attacks. His goal was to bring people together through stories and art. He's also spoken out on social justice, equality, and truth in politics, never afraid to express his opinions, even if they were unpopular. That courage reflects the same bravery he shows in his roles, calm but unshakable. In interviews, De Niro often says he believes in doing what's right quietly. He doesn't chase headlines. He lets his actions speak. Whether it's supporting small filmmakers or standing up for artists' rights, he continues to shape the world beyond the screen. His maturity has made him a symbol of integrity, someone who has lived through fame, pain, and pressure yet remains humble. He once said, "Success doesn't change you. It just shows who you really are." For him, the journey has never been about glory but about meaning. 15. The final reflection. Now in his 80s, Robert De Niro looks back at his life with both pride and sadness. He's proud of his work, his growth, and the art he helped create. Robert De Niro's life began far from the bright lights of Hollywood. Born in New York City in 1943, he was raised in a small, artistic family. His parents, Robert De Niro Sr. and Virginia Admiral, were both painters. But their marriage didn't last long. When De Niro was just 2 years old, his parents separated after his father revealed he was gay, something very difficult to accept in that time. Though the young De Niro didn't understand much then, it shaped his view of love, loneliness, and identity for the rest of his life. Growing up in the streets of Little Italy, Robert was a shy, quiet boy. People around him called him Bobby Milk because he was pale and silent. But deep inside, he was always watching, always observing people, their movements, voices, and emotions. That sharp eye for human behavior would one day make him one of the greatest actors of all time. At school, De Niro wasn't interested in sports or popularity. He found his true calling when he performed in a school play, The Wizard of Oz. Acting gave him a strange kind of freedom. It allowed him to become someone else, to hide behind a mask. That sense of control and escape fascinated him. Later, he studied at the Stella Adler Conservatory and Lee Strasberg's Actors Studio, where he learned the famous method acting technique, becoming the character completely, even off-screen. It wasn't just acting for him, it was transformation. Before fame, De Niro spent years in struggle. He worked in small off-Broadway plays, taking odd jobs to survive. He was passionate but unknown, one of thousands of young actors dreaming of success in New York. His first few films went unnoticed, yet he didn't give up. He kept working quietly, waiting for his moment. That moment came when he met a young, energetic filmmaker, Martin Scorsese. The two instantly connected. They shared the same love for raw, emotional storytelling and the same fascination with the darker sides of human nature. Their first major project together, Mean Streets, 1973, was raw, loud, and full of heart. De Niro's performance as Johnny Boy, an unpredictable, wild young man, made people stop and notice him. Critics praised his energy, and suddenly, Hollywood knew his name. A year later, De Niro gave another unforgettable performance in The Godfather Part 2, playing the young Vito Corleone, the same role that Marlon Brando made famous. But De Niro didn't copy Brando. He made the role his own, studying Sicilian dialect, movements, and habits. The result was magical. He won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and the world realized that a new acting legend had arrived. Yet even after that success, De Niro remained the same, quiet, private, and deeply focused. He wasn't chasing fame or money. What he wanted was truth, truth in acting, truth in art, and truth in himself. The 1970s and 1980s became De Niro's golden years. Every role he took seemed to define a generation. His partnership with Scorsese grew stronger with films like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas. Each of these movies wasn't just a story, it was a study of human pain, loneliness, and survival. In Taxi Driver, 1976, De Niro played Travis Bickle, a lonely cab driver slowly losing his mind in the dirty streets of New York. He improvised the famous line, "You talkin' to me?" which became one of the most iconic moments in movie history. But beyond the line, the film showed the dark truth of urban isolation. It was violent, yes, but it wasn't about glorifying violence, it was about showing what happens when people are forgotten by society. Then came Raging Bull, 1980, where De Niro transformed into boxer Jake LaMotta. He trained with the real LaMotta for nearly a year, learned boxing, and even gained 60 pounds to portray the fighter's later years. His performance was raw and painful, a man destroyed by his own anger. Critics called it one of the greatest acting performances ever captured on film. But behind the power of these performances was a question that would follow De Niro for decades: did these films glorify violence? Or were they warnings about its consequences? That question would later lead him to say he wanted it to end. As De Niro became a symbol of the tough, silent gangster or the disturbed anti-hero, people began to associate him with violence. Films like The Untouchables, Goodfellas, and Casino made him an icon of crime cinema. Audiences loved watching him play dangerous men, calm, deadly, and intelligent. But De Niro himself started to feel uneasy about what his roles were saying to the world. He once admitted in an interview that he worried about the line between showing violence and celebrating it. He never wanted people to think his films made crime look cool. To him, these characters were not heroes, they were broken people. Yet Hollywood and fans often misunderstood that. The gangster image became so popular that it overshadowed his other, more emotional work. During this time, De Niro's personal life was also full of challenges. His marriage to Diane Abbott faced struggles, and his father's death in 1990